Yeah, Perek Yud Zayin. Thank you for joining us. Without you, we wouldn't be here. Perek Yud Zayin. Bazi Yuvan says the Alter Rebbe, now we will understand. Now that the Alter Rebbe in Perek Tezayin, the Alter Rebbe spoke about a baseline of Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem that's there as the foundation of Kiyum HaMitzvahs. The Alter Rebbe, we spoke last week, the Alter Rebbe gave a Hasidic taich on the words Machshava Toiva HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mitzarfa L'Maisa, that Hashem joins. A person has a Machshava Toiva, a person thinks about Yirah Shamayim, a person thinks about Avas Hashem. You can't say that they're truly experiencing an emotion. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mitzarfa L'Maisa, the Eibishter considers it as if you did a mitzvah with Ava V'Yirah, like it was really driven by this emotion. So the Alter Rebbe introduced this idea that when we...
Part in the chapter. Key card, the biggest part in the chapter. I like the way you worded that. It's the huge, is like trumpet says, it's huge, not big, it's huge. So important.
Yeah, so now too we could understand Masha Kosov Kikara Veilecha Adavar Ma'id Beficha Uvolvavcha La'asoisei. We will now understand the pasuk. Now there are a few questions about the pasuk. Let's look at what Alter Rebbe asks, and then we'll add a little bit. Dilechura hu bilvavcha neged achushalanu. How could you say that bilvavcha is karev ma'id? It's not karev ma'id. That's not our experience. The Torah is everlasting, meaning, what's the chidush? What's the Alter Rebbe trying to say? When Moshe Rabbeinu was talking to the Deir Hamidbar, so some people might say, well, Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them that you have to fulfill this mitzvah. But the fact that it's close to you, who says that that's nitzchi? The mitzvahs are nitzchiyim. But who says the easy access? The Alter Rebbe says, V'ateirehi nitzchis, even the karev ma'id. And the Alter Rebbe says, what do you mean? She'ein karev ma'id adavar. It is not easy to transform one's heart. Mitayves elam hazeh, from the pleasures of the world, from being conditioned to seek and to enjoy Tayves elam hazeh, la'avas Hashem be'emes, to truly love Hashem. It's not easy to do that. Yeah, so we already before we go further, so there are other questions here. Bechlal, the Mefarshi HaMikra, they speak about the order of the psukim. Why does the pasuk say Beficha, and then Bilvavcha, and then La'asoisei? If we think about Machshava, Dibur, Maisa, so whichever way you go, Maisa, Dibur, Machshava, Dibur, Maisa, you don't start with Dibur, Beficha. Why does the pasuk start with Beficha? And so that's a shaila that's unstated, but that's underneath something that the Alter Rebbe is addressing. The other is what the Alter Rebbe says clearly. What do you mean? The pasuk says karev eilecha adavar ma'id. It's very near, and it's ein karev ma'id. Now, there's a letter of the Rebbe. Somebody asked the Rebbe a question. I'll speak a little bit more about it further on. So in the letter, the Rebbe speaks about karev and karev ma'id. What's the difference between karev and karev ma'id? The Rebbe speaks about this in the context of why it is that the Alter Rebbe chose Perek Yud Zayin, where to ostracize the Rasha. The irony that the Perek that's talking about how close it is, that's where the Alter Rebbe draws a line, and he says that for Rishayim it's not close. Wow. But so we have these questions on the pasuk, and the Alter Rebbe says, I don't need to bring proof to you. Everyone knows that it's not karev ma'id. We talk about in Tanya that a person has to be mizboinen, it's Yegias Nefesh and Yegias Basar. The Alter Rebbe is going to say in Perek Mem Beis that it's an incredible amount of, there's an incredible amount of effort. It's exertion. It's not, you have to really work on yourself to develop true Avos Hashem, to redirect our instinctive taivus to loving the Eibishter. Then the Alter Rebbe brings the sources. What does the Gemara say? The Gemara says, "Atu yira milsa zutra sehi." Is yira then a small thing? When the pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Yidden, "V'ata Yisrael," and now, dear people, all Hashem asks of you is to fear Him. So the Gemara asks, really? All He asks of you is a kleinigkeit? I mean, obviously we could get carried away by talking about this as the times that we live in. We're all about, I would say that from 10 years ago the conversation changed because we have an anxiety-ridden society. Something changed the post-COVID world. Is just many people are experiencing anxiety. But this idea of discipline and fear was completely dismissed. Like, we're all supposed to be free, and we're supposed to be motivated by love and kindness, understanding, etc. So, is yira a small thing, especially to people who are so free, uninhibited? For Kol Shekein Ava, how much more so Avos Hashem is even more difficult. The Rebbe and the Rebbe's Rishimis, the Rebbe's Metzayin, the Rebbe brings a Tzion where it brings in Chazal that in the order of serving Hashem, Yira, and then Ava is a greater, right? Ava requires more. Yeah. You get, right, in let's say in disciplining children, you get quicker results with corporal punishment, right? But you get deeper results with love, with understanding. So yira is necessarily the quicker way. You understand what I mean? Like, when you don't have patience,
right?
You're like, listen, I can't hear your stories now. If you don't do this, you'll get a patch.
Right, there you go.
Okay? So yira is swifter. Ava is a process. It takes time. You have to... So yira is not easy. Kol shekein ava, how much more so? In other words, think about the reflection of that, what it means in us. Akoponim. V'gam, omru razal, tzadikim dafka libam b'rshusam. Now, what the Alter Rebbe is saying here, tzadikim dafka libam b'rshusam, when the pasuk says that something is close to you, it has to mean to the majority of the population. You can't make a statement and then say, oh, this only applies to 2 people. When Chazal tell us that tzaddikim, they're masters over their heart. So then you're saying necessarily that it's a tiny minority for whom it's karevei lecha. So all of these things intensify the question of the Alter Rebbe. I want to mention at this point that what do you mean? We should all be asking the question. We learned earlier that mayach shalit al halev is a Beinani experience, mind over matter. So how could you say that only tzaddikim libam b'rshusam? What do you mean? Only tzaddikim control their heart. Beinani mayach shalit. Yeah, that's the whole the Beinani's persona. That's what we're. So the answer to that question, the Rebbe speaks about it. This in the Biyurim. I mean, this is one of the classic points that I discussed. Is that when we talk about Mayach Shalit al Halev and Tzadikim Libam B'Shusam, there's two types of Libam B'Shusam. There's Libam B'Shusam, which means I could control my heart, and there's Libam B'Shusam that I could transform my heart. And when it says Tzadikim Dafka Libam B'Shusam, it's talking about the transformative part. You know, for people, people obviously go through this type of journey, unfortunately, is quite common in our society, where people are deeply in love with someone, they break up, and for some people, they never get over it. But for other people, it's a very long process, and I'm not going to get into what all the stages and what happens, and the type of the intense breakdown, or like the type of shock treatment needed from the real world to help them let go of what they were in love with. But people do get over it, and in a certain way, that's a libam b'sh. They no longer love that person. Maybe they love a new person. So that's
Sublimation, right? From one.
Yeah. So lahapech libay mitayves elam haze la'avas Hashem. It's not from a gashmius to a ruchnius, but. Obviously, each one of these things we could speak about for a long time. So now comes the answer. Elo. When the pasuk, when it says in the pasuk, Ikar veilecha adavar ma'id beficha uvilvavcha la'asoisei. So now we're going to understand the order of the pasuk. We're going to understand why the word la'asoisei is at the end. Why the bilvavcha comes before la'asoisei. Because what's the pasuk talking about? The pasuk is not talking about cultivating avas Hashem that's so intense. There's a passion, there's a fire of yearning to the Eibishter. No, there's a motivation to be connected to Hashem. The bilvavcha is for the purpose of la'asoisei. I have enough motivation to do what I need to do. Right? I'm sorry to put this in such striking terms. You have people, they do the minimum at their job.
Oh, yeah.
Right? In other words,
We've seen that with politics lately.
they're doing enough not to get fired. In other words, I want to remain in this position. Think about it in a marriage. Someone who's like really excited, really in love, is doing above and beyond. They're right? They're outperforming. They're coming in above expectation. But they want to be married, but the love is only enough to try to avoid criticism. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want to be in the hot seat, so I do the bare minimum. So that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying here. The bilvavcha is only la'asoisei. It's enough motivation just to do what I need to do. There's no extras here. There's no excitement. There's no Reb Levi Yitzchak Barditchever dancing in the morning while he's saying brachos shaloi asani goy. I'm just doing what I need to do. So la'asoisei, when the pasuk says la'asoisei, reitza loymar ha'ava hamavia lidei asiyas hamitzvahs bilvad. Only the basic ava shehi, which is Re'usa Deliba, Shebeta'alum slave. It's the inner will that's hidden inside the heart. I'm going to mention here, it's a little bit Kabbalistic words, that this is, generally speaking, the words Re'usa Deliba are used for the deepest depth of the heart. And here he's speaking about the outer layer. So it's a pele. It's striking that the Alter Rebbe uses the word Re'usa Deliba for such thought. But the Alter Rebbe is saying is that there is a certain deep understanding that I'm just going to do what's right. Even though gam ki eina bi'izgalus libei kirish beish, even though it's not passionate and it's not burning in a flaming fire. Says the Alter Rebbe, there's also a discussion here about how Ava landed here. Yira Ava. Who says that Kikorev Elecha refers to Ava? Right? Maybe it only includes Yira. Right? So that's also, so in the Bilvavcha La'asoise, to make sure you're doing both. V'davar zeh korev ma'od, it's very close. This basic commitment to living a civilized life is korev ma'od, v'nokel lechol adam, it's easy for every person, asher yesh le moyach bekotkodeh, who has a brain in his skull. It's a Lashon HaGemara. Says the Alter Rebbe, Ki meche b'shusei, you have the choice to think about whatever you want. That's what he means. He doesn't mean you control your mind. You choose what to think about. V'yachal lehiz beinen bay, k'chal asher yachbetz. You could reflect, you could meditate as it's up to you. You could put in as much time and effort as you want. I'm just looking, in this Tanya, the word is kechol. I believe that in some Tanyas it's with a beis. Whatever it is. Anyway. Bichol and kechol. But I think the Rebbe Rashab has a vort here. It's a strange vort. I don't remember where it is. This is from a long time ago. It's in my brain. And I'm just sharing it. And the Rebbe Rashab, basically, how far could a person's will wander? Like we could think about aliens, UFO, you know what I mean? Like, there's like very little, like the whole science fiction world. The Alter Rebbe says, as far as your rotzen could fly, your mind can. Your mind can go anywhere. You know, like there's no limit. Not no limit, but yeah. So, just like your will is free, your mind is free. So you could think about a likus. When a person will choose to be mizbein in the greatness of Hashem, so memele, naturally, yoilid b'moichai al kol panim, he will develop a baseline, at least ha'ava l'Hashem, l'davka by b'kiyum mitzvahs v'teiraseh, to be closer to Hashem by doing His mitzvahs and learning Torah. Hashem gave me my life. We say in davening every day, Hu asanu v'lo yanachnu. It's like here we are. We're such a like we're some people, they can't get over themselves. I'm such a gift to humanity. The Eibishter created me, so the whole thing, it's like legabe, the godless of a creator. I'm garnished. Al kol panim. Yeah. And this is how we could connect him. Imagine Hashem gave us a tafkid. I was looking at the Rebbe's notes on Tanya. They're so cryptic. I was just thinking about the job, like for the people who were unraveling what it says. It's like you have, the Rebbe writes, La soisoi ches vov, chas v'shalom. What does that mean? So actually what it means is that in the Chumash, the word La soisoi is missing a vov. Chaser vov. The same letters, ches vav, chas v'shalom. You know, yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like a Rosh Hashanah is lamed yud. What, I mean, it's without a sof. Mamish without a sof.
Where are these notes from?
From the Rebbe's notebook, the Rebbe's Rishimis. So everything is it's so condensed. It's insane. It's like what, I don't know. The Rebbe was saving ink. Like I don't know what.
And then what is chaser vav significance of that?
Right, so actually, in the word taivus, the Alter Rebbe puts two vavs. Taivus elam haza, two vavs. And the Rebbe just wants to clarify that even though there are two vavs, it doesn't mean the plural form of taivus. Because the Alter Rebbe, elsewhere, where it's clearly a single form, he also has two vavs in the word taivus. Right? In other words, the Alter Rebbe is not speaking about the general, like how could you expect a person to redirect their desire from the worldly things to Hashem? He's like, take one taiva. The way we relate to a davar gashmi, that we should relate that way to a davar ruchni, to the Eibishter, it's not easy. Like, it's not Karev Ma'id. Take one thing. Akoponim. Okay, so now the question is, so why is it that Bilvavcha has been reduced to such a tiny little ava? That it's only the ava that's needed to do mitzvahs, it's not really an emotion. Says the Alter Rebbe, V'zeh kol adam, because that's the whole tachlis of a human being in this world. We're here in a Olam HaMaisa. Hashem created us with bodies. That's the purpose of our existence. It's not to pontificate, it's to do. Action, that's the ikr. Ki hayayim la'asoysam ksiv. That's the pasuk. The final words of Parshas Rei. Hayayim hu Olam HaMaisa dafka u'lamachar chulu. La'asid lavai. Or in Gan Eden. There's the reward of mitzvahs, which is great yearning and love, great ava, a great emotional experience. That's a matana. Mishkosav Mokamacher. The Alter Rebbe continues, V'amayach, once you engage your mind, Hamayach shalit b'tivei v'teldose al cholol asmali shebelev. Your mind is balabos, naturally. Yeah. On the heart, you could control it. Val piv, you could be silent. Val kol ho'evarim, you could be still. Shem klei ha'maisa. And the Rebbe brings here, is also brought in Chassidus, like Talta. Why is the mayach shalit on the rest of the body? Because the mayach is what delivers the chayas. Because the brain is the central hub. That's why the brain controls. Imloi misho rasha be'emes, with the exclusion of someone who's a rasha be'emes. So this is not the platform. I can't fully unpack the rasha be'emes thing. But what does it mean when it says rasha be'emes? So
all you want to do is be a rasha.
Right, but
and you don't want to improve.
Right. So what I'll say is like this. Ultimately, the Rebbe remains in a tzarech iyun. It's a question. Because really, every Rasha creates separation. What's the Alter Rebbe trying to say when he adds the word be'emes? He could say, Loi mishu Rasha. Where do we have a definition? You could say, oh, the Alter Rebbe said Rasha be'emes because he's referring to a Rambam. He's referring to a Gemara. You know what I mean? Like, where is that language used? Rasha be'emes. So, there are ideas floated. I'm saying when the Rebbe says an idea, I'm not saying all ideas floated. You know, the Rebbe presents, and there are ideas in Chassidus. Rasha be'emes means not the Rasha be'koyach. Right? We spoke about in Perek Yud Aleph that there are people that you say, oh, you have to put him in a good environment. If he's in a bad environment, he's going to fall apart. Mm-hmm. So right now, when he's in a good environment, he's doing everything right, but he's not really a Beinani. Because he really will succumb to temptation. He doesn't have the power in him. You just put him, he's not committing any crimes because you put him in a prison cell.
He also was created in Hashem. Hashem created Tzadikim, Hashem. So Hashem was created awareness,
In other words, this is not, when the Alter Rebbe answers in Perek Chav Zayin, Barosa Rishoyim, right? He says, no, he says that they have, it occurs to them to do Averis like for a Rasha, but they don't do it. Kim Sheyagit, right? But he'll bring that point in a second. So what is a Rasha be'emes? Not a potential Rasha, an actual Rasha. That's one. The other pshat is Rasha be'emes means Rasha v'raloi. This the Rebbe bases on the fact that 2 lines down, the Alter Rebbe says that this is a punishment al goydel ve'oitzem avoino. They have like grave sins. Grave sins. That's a Rasha. But then the Rebbe asks a question. If it's only a Rasha v'raloi, why doesn't a Rasha v'toivuloi fit into this? He should also have the same thing. Mm-hmm. He should also struggle in the same. So, but let's read inside. So a Rasha be'emes cannot. His mind, it can't control his heart. He's impulsive. That's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. K'mayim Razal, she'arushoyim heim b'shus libam. Right in the, I remember these tkufes, but there's this classic idea. I remember going to the year that my friends were getting married, the year that many of my classmates. I was principal in Babich Yeshiva on Crown Street. So we were having l'chaims. And I had to be at work the next morning. Mm. So every night I was so upset, I have to be tomorrow. So every night, what they call wrestling with the clock. What time are you going to go home tonight? What time? 11. The next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Right? Mm. So, in other words, who hit the snooze button? The same guy who set the alarm hit the snooze button. So the Rishoyim are b'shus libam. They're just not in control. Ve'ein libam b'shusam klal. Don't have the expectation. It's like when a teenager gives you a commitment. Like, are you kidding me? Says the Alter Rebbe, v'zeh oynish. It's a punishment. That's not the natural order of the world. It's a punishment al goydel ve'oitzem avoinu. The pasuk says ki korev elecha adavar ma'id. Says the Alter Rebbe, I'm sorry. V'lei dibra Torah b'meisem elu. The Torah is not speaking about Rishoyim. Shebechayehem kruyim meisim. They're called meisim. Shebechayehem kruyim meisim. Their chayis is misa. Their excitement Their lev, the lev is chayis. There's different ways to understand this phrase, b'chayim kriyim mesim, in a Hasidic taich. In other words, they're alive. What does it mean, b'chayim kriyim mesim? What animates, what gives vitality to a person? By the Rasha, it's Misa that gives them vitality. That's where they're excited. Says the Alter Rebbe, you should know that be'emes, efsher, not only is it far away, not only for a Rasha is it not karev ma'oid, not only is it not karev, but it's efsher, it's impossible for a Rasha lahaschil lavid Hashem, b'li sheyasu tshuva ala ovar tchila. They have to do tshuva first. By doing tshuva, and the Alter Rebbe is going to say they have to break their hearts, they have to break their egos, they have to smash themselves. L'shaber aklipis, sheheim klipis are mosach mavdil, they're a separating curtain. We have the word mosach in Teres Chitas and Ra'ya, and they're a mechitza shel barzel. They're an iron mechitza. Barzel is the Rosh Tevis of the 4 wives of Yaakov Avinu. Okay, Bilha Rachel, Zilpa Leah. Now what do we find? It's the Shfachos before the Imahos. Bilha Rachel, Zilpa Leah. So when the Shifcha, when the one who's supposed to be supporting became a Balabas. That's what Barzel represents. Why is it that Barzel is not allowed to touch the Mizbeach? Right? Because Barzel represents the wrong status of the person. That the part of you that's supposed to be at service, the servant became the dominating force. The Mizbeach is the place of kapara. It's the place of restoration, of coming back to where that the Adam should be in control. So it's a mechitza shel barzel. It's the barzel that, in other words, when we talk in the world, when we talk about priority, right? The Frierdiker Rebbe, one of his themes in his Mamorim when he came to America or in Poland, he says that what happens nowadays, that the commitment people have to business, to meetings, to things like that is unwavering. There's no way they can budge. Even, meal times at home, dinner time, like it used to be a holy thing. And he says, and the zmanim of Torah and shiurim and the minyan and all of that is flexible. Right? In other words, what happened? You took the shifcha and you made it the priority. The secondary thing became, that's the ikr. And that is what is mafsekas beinam la'aviyam shebashamayim. That's what divides between you and the Eibishter. And the only way to break it is al yidei shviras libay umeriras nafshay al chatav. You have to break. You have to be shviras. You have to break yourself. This is the idea, the rock bottom idea, the unmanageability idea. I bring myself my own sorrows. So I am broken. It's shviras liboy. That's the only way the person could restore mayach shalit al halev. Kamesha Kosa Bezoyar, like the Zoyar says, Al Pasuk Ziv Chelikim. Ruach Nishbar of Lev Nishbar V'Geimer, the Zoyar says that what is a true sacrifice? What is a